So this is called the sales call, is how we phrased it. It's not really about sales training, because that can be a long process. At one time, my company was acquired by IBM, and I ended up going through IBM sales training. That was a full year. So what I've been doing for the last 5 years is dedicating my time teaching startups as an accelerator instructor and mentor for 500 Endeavor. I'm also down at the University of Miami as an entrepreneur in residence, and also run their medical school accelerator to bring their medical breakthrough ideas out to market as quickly as possible. So what this is about is really kind of the things that I've seen over 5 years with regards to how people approach sales. And of course, the number 2 reason why startups fail is because they're not executing their sales properly. The number 1 reason is they build something that people don't really need. But the number 2 reason is once they do it, and just as important, you have to actually get it out into the market effectively and efficiently for yourself and for them. So there's a lot to this, but the kind of the things that I see as fundamental mistakes and fundamental processes, that's what I want to cover here in the next 50 minutes or so, just to let people see them, focus in on them, and see if that's helpful. So with that in mind, let me see the chat here.
We can keep the questions till the end of the session if you prefer, Richard. Or...
No, I prefer them read as I go. And matter of fact, if we opened up the audio, I don't mind people interrupting me as I go. Highly interactive is always good for me, but either way, so whatever's good. But if you see a question on the chat, because I'm kind of focused on my slide, why don't you just let me know and I'll answer it right now.
Yeah, most of the questions now are about the program. So any questions on the sales or in the session, I'll ping you.
Okay, very good. So these are the fundamentals. So the sales call, there is a prescriptive way in which you should conduct a sales call. There's sales funnel. People always throw that word around. Hey, we need a sales funnel. So I want to talk a little bit about what its real purpose is and why you need it, and why it's important. And then the observations I make about the 13 biggest mistakes that salespeople make, especially in the startup world, with regards to trying to get their product out into the marketplace effectively. So it's kind of a, not in depth, but kind of the big ticket items that surface and we should probably talk through, and hopefully they're helpful. So the first one is the sales call. And the first notion is I will tell you that there's really 6 discrete parts to a sales call. And the first one, if I had a highly interactive session, I'd ask you, so what do you think what's the first thing we want to do in a sales call? And maybe some people can write some things down in the chat, if they have some ideas. Or I can jump into it. It's always good to make the session interactive, though. All right, take action, break the ice, create interest. All very good, very good. So I would include them under the banner of this title called Establish Rapport. So a lot of people come in and they either are not focused or they're want to jump right into what they have. But the first thing, because we're all human beings, is try to find some things in common, even outside of the business world, and establish some good rapport. You want to set the baseline. What we always did and what we were taught was, know the person you're calling on. Where did they go to school? What's their job history? Where do their kids go to school? And maybe you have some common things that you can compare, but it's always good. Break the ice. So someone did that right away. Very good. And try to establish that rapport. And in the United States, we're famous for jumping into talking about facts and figures. And then when I lived in Asia, I managed Asia Pacific at one time in my life for PwC, establishing rapport was absolutely critical. And that was one of the most important things. And you had to learn to trust you. But it's still evident in each culture, in each sales call, establish rapport. So what's the second thing? After we've established rapport, we've determined that we like each other. Hey, we have some common interest. What's the next thing I want to jump into? So I had some good suggestions on number 1. Let's see what we have for number 2. So effective questions. Anybody else? What's the second thing I want to do? Understand the pain, understand the problems, ask questions, find out what their need is. Yeah, those are all good. Little bit more advanced, a little bit down the road. So the first thing we want to do, just to make sure, is to set the agenda. And that is, you never know when you're talking to an audience, you come in there with one idea, like I have a full hour to present whatever I need to present, and you don't know it. And they say, well, we have to leave 15 minutes early because we have to get over to this luncheon or something else like that. So it's really set the agenda and then confirm that we're all going to talk about the right things, because the last thing you want to do is start going through your presentation and halfway through it, they say, geez, I really thought we were talking about something else today. So it's like, so let's confirm the agenda. I'm here we want to kind of pick off where we left off last time. We want to cover off these topics. I'm assuming I have 45 minutes to do that. Is that in line with what you all are thinking today? So that's very important to do so you don't get cut short and you take maximum advantage of the time. So that's, and then review any actions you're bringing forward from the last meeting. So then what's the third thing? There's 6 key elements of this whole thing. What's some guesses on what's the next thing? So we've set the agenda, we're perfectly aligned. I know the topics I want to walk through, and I know the time I have. What's next? So understand the problem, find out what their need is. So the needs is actually really good. Very good. Good sharp audience today. Determine needs, and right behind that is qualify. And this is the qualify is what a lot of people miss, a lot of salespeople miss. So I want to determine, do you have a need for my product? Let's start figuring out what's your pain point. What do you, what's the issue that you're facing? How much is it costing you? And then right behind that, though, I need to qualify, because we have people who may want to talk to you, but of course we're a startup. Time is precious, and if they don't have a short window and they don't have the money already budgeted, then wow, I really need to move on. Keep them warm, but I don't want to enter into a lot of discussions. And I'll tell you, over 35 years, even big companies like IBM and Cisco get salespeople that get engaged. They have great conversations. They really like the people, but the thing hasn't been qualified. So do they have a need? Do they have the time frame? Do they have the budget? And are they going to be looking to buy something in the next 6 months is usually the time horizon. If not, let's revisit it. But I don't want to keep talking and spending my valuable time there if in fact it's not a short-term horizon. So we've done that, and now we're up to number 4. So they do have a need. We've determined it. They are well positioned. They have some money budget, and they're looking to do something in the next 6 months. And now we're off to the 4th item. What might that be? Oh, present the solution. We're jumping. Yes, that is there. That's a little bit further than I want to go. Any other guess? So this is also very critical. You don't notice it, but or don't realize it, but we need to confirm the decision makers. And most notably, when you go sell something, especially in the enterprise space, but even the consumer space, there's really 3 types of decision makers. One is an economic buyer, one is a technical buyer, and then one is an influencer. And what I'm really interested in is getting to understand who is the economic buyer, because the economic buyer is the one who's pulling together the information and determining that for the benefits you're claiming you're going to give to me, that it's worth the money that I'm going to spend on your solution. So I actually want to start there, and then a lot of problems happen because people get to the technical buyer. The technical buyer there is to say whether or not your solution works as advertised. And that can take a lot of time. They probably want to enter into a proof of concept. And I've plenty of startups I've encountered in which the proof of concepts are going on for 6 months, 7, 8, 9 months. And worse, there's no definition of what the successful POC is. So much better, find out the decision makers, identify the economic buyer, present your business case to them, and then you have a sense of urgency for your sale. And then a lot of questions I get over the years, or one particular one is, how do I speed up my sales process? It's too slow. Well, do you actually present a very compelling proposition, value proposition that's tied to money. Not that, hey, this is going to make you, smell better, look better. It's going to be amazing. We need to bring it, or it's going to make you even more productive or faster. We need to quantify it and bring it down to dollars and cents. And that's the job of a good salesperson. That's why good salespeople are hard to find. And when you find one, they're worth an awful lot of money. And that's why top salespeople, in the United States make about $1 million and above for the big companies, because they know how to quickly ascertain what the needs are and then bring them, understanding the industry or company well enough to tie them into dollars and cents benefits, either saving a lot of money or making a lot of money or improving productivity, which again opens up the ability to save a lot of money. So that's what you want to do here. So I need to first determine who they are, because a lot of people think that they're talking to one person and it's like, oh my God, it's great. I'm talking to somebody from Standard Oil or IBM or whatever the big company is. But that's not good enough. I need to get to the decision maker, in particular the economic buyer. But of course, it could be spread. There could be a couple economic buyers for different business units in the enterprise space. But that's the key. Who are the decision makers in the form of those buyers? And let's make sure we get to them, because we want to present in the first person. I don't want to rely on anybody in the company to make my business case for me. All right, so that's the decision makers. We did that. I found out there's 2 more people we need to go talk to from an economic standpoint. We talk to them. We get their needs. We also understand what they're looking for. And we can start then to do what? What's the 5th step in this whole process? So focused discussion, closing the sale, yeah. So the 5th one is, we're now ready. If we did a good job getting all the needs from the right people, we need to present a solution and quantify. So we need to explain how our solution will work, because I've done a lot of time listening to you. And by the way, the average for really high performing salespeople, the average between the time that they listen versus when they speak, a lot of people think, oh, they must be doing a lot of talking. It's just the opposite. It's about 80% listening and 20% speaking. Because if I don't listen to you very carefully and understand you and connect with you, you're going to be like, geez, you're just trying to ram something down my throat. But if I listen very carefully and then I meet your needs as you've articulated them, that's very powerful as a human, any human, and doing any engagement to receive something from them. Even a doctor. The doctor doesn't listen to you carefully about your ailment, you're not going to really trust the doctor. So you want them to listen. Same thing in sales. You don't want to rush into, oh my God, my product's so great. You got to need it. You need it. You got to use it now. Listen carefully, wait, and then present the solution. Then most importantly, quantify, is put a dollar figure on it, which I just mentioned before. And there's a particular way of doing this effectively. It's called the FAR technique. So what you do is you explain, you understand the need, you explain the feature of your product. You talk about the advantage of that feature in meeting some need that you heard them say, like my plant operations are not as efficient and fast as I need them to be. Well, our new software that manages that has the ability to track everybody. The advantage of that is people know exactly what they need to do every second of the day, and therefore makes them more productive by an average of something about 30 to 40%. And then you want to do reaction. And I don't want to tell you how much it's valuable to you. I want to ask you. I want to say, if you use our software and people know what they need to do, and they can then speed up and cut out excess about 30%. What does that mean to you in dollars and cents? What does that financially, how does that financially impact you? So you want them to quantify or, react and give you the number. And they go, that's interesting. So, and you can lead the questions. Well, how much do you pay people per day? I don't know. It's an average of, $500 a day. Well, if we could get them 30% more productive, how much would that save you? It's 30% times 500, plus there's a burden rate because you get benefits from the company. You kind of talk it through, let them figure it out. And then how many people do you have in this plant? I have 100. Oh, okay, now we're starting to get into some big numbers. And I said, okay, you said 30%, $500. That's 150 times 100 people. Wow, that's pretty good money, right? 15,000. Wow. And then you can calculate it by 50 weeks, calculate by 7 and 50 weeks. And you say, geez, it looks like, and then you want to wrap it up. But you see, by using that technique, it's not me being a pushy salesperson. It's me understanding your business, understanding my product, understanding your needs, and leading you to articulate the value. That's the number one way you get sales sped up. The number one way to get sales slowed down is for me to tell you, oh, it's going to save you $500,000 a year. Trust me. Well, that one's dead on arrival. All the big Fortune 500 companies will use this technique. IBM teaches this technique. It's very effective. And when you get to the end, so now, of course, what's our next step out of our 6-step process? Well, it's close. You want to summarize the solution, recite the benefits, and put some urgency on it. And so let's say we came up with using their data, their own estimates, and then we're just jotting it down, and I come back and I say, Brian, it looks like based on what you said, we could save over $1.5 million a year just from this productivity improvement in the plant, multiplied by the number of people, multiplied the number of plants. That's 1.5 million. And then you can also just calculate that. Let's say it is that. So I just divided it by 365 days a year. And I would say, I just want to point out that for every day you're not using our solution, you're losing $4,000, $4,100 to be exact. And I really hate to see that happen. So it's a good thing I actually brought a contract with me today so we could, get started. That's how you speed up sales. And it's not by BSing or anything, but it's being super smart, zeroing in on what a business needs, using their own estimations and not you trying to force it down their throat, called the esophagus cell, jam it down their throat. You want to be more of an advisor, a consultant. You've all heard of consultative sales. This is what this is all about. And it's very prestigious. It's very helpful. And any business is looking for any solution that actually helps them operate better, faster, cheaper, or some other benefit. So by doing this, you're doing a great service to your company and to them. And by the way, if you don't come up with a good solution, you say, what, it doesn't look like my product is a good fit for you. And just be honest. And then you can move on. You'll gain a lot more credibility that way. But most likely, if you follow these steps in the sales call, obviously it doesn't all happen in one call. It happens in multiple calls. But that's what you do, and that's how you get very effective. That's how you speed up the sales process, and that's how you become more efficient. Because if the person isn't qualified at the beginning, why do I want to spend my expensive time constantly talking to them? And believe me, I've made all of these mistakes coming up. It's easy for me to say here, but I've experienced each one because it's very seductive to keep in the conversation or to try to convince someone to use your product, which you so very much believe in because you had a hand in creating it as a startup. But those are the basics of working through a sales call. So it is step by step, it is logical, and you want to move through it smoothly. And then you want to have a benefit for all parties. Everybody wants a win-win. So do we still qualify to submit? What does that mean, qualify to submit?
I think he means the application for the seed accelerator.
Oh, nothing to do with this. They're back on the other topic, right?
Mm.
Okay, all right. So I will ignore that. All right, so any questions? So let's just point out, whoops, going the wrong direction here. Let's just point out a couple things.
We have a question, but
go ahead, shoot it.
Mayar.
Yeah.
But it's mostly related to finding a team and an MVP. I don't know if we want to answer this or we want to keep it to the end, not related to the team.
No, go, just throw it out. If it came up now, I'll give it a shot. If I need to talk about it more at the end, I will.
Mayar is having difficulty in finding a team. Artificial intelligence student from Bahrain studying in Egypt.
Yep, very true. It's a hot prospect. It's a hot commodity. There's no magic bullet for alleviating that except to convince them. And this is what founders need to do, because nobody is as passionate about your company than you are. but you're going to have to meet people, talk to them, speak at conferences, speak on campus or whatever it is. But you're going to have to convince them of your mission and dream. And I've met many startup founders who aren't that articulate and that passionate, and they keep saying, oh, I have trouble finding good people. But I'll guarantee you, when you find the people who truly believe and are passionate about what they're trying to do and how it's going to help society or companies, and you speak in an excited way, it's contagious. And then if they're interested in the startup world, which was, they want a piece of the action. That's why you always reserve equity. And when VCs invest in you, they make sure that you probably put aside 10% or 20% of the equity pool available for key hires. Because in this land, we're working for equity. We're not working for a low salary. And if you're good at AI, I'm going to go work for the big companies, Microsoft, IBM, Cisco, whatever. And they're going to pay me, a couple $100,000 just out of college, just get a bachelor's or even a master's. So they have to, one, you're going to have to be passionate about what it is you're going to achieve. And two, give them a share of that brass ring. So that's the equity component. And a lot of founders are very selfish with it. They're not going to get the people, but you have to realize that's why I need to share it. And because that's what people want to work really hard for. So that's kind of my quick answer. Without any, we can follow up on more details on some other things. I did a lot of recruiting and hiring in my previous position, so we can talk more deeply about it, but that's a general answer. Any other questions that we asked before we move on?
Yes, Mohammed Raslan. I have an e-commerce, furniture and interior design. I have MVP and we go live in the market. I do social media ads, but it's a little bit hard to get customers. What is your advice?
I have a whole course on that.
Exactly.
It's a week long. I'm not a big fan of this social media ads. I've probably taught about 400 startups now through the growth program I teach. They usually come in at about 10 or 15% average growth per year. And some of them leave with 122% per month. You can look it up on 500 Startups YouTube page. Look at the Miami Growth Program video, and you'll see 6 startups articulate that. But the quick answer, because I can't teach you a week-long course, what it really comes down to is, number one, who are your target customers? Do you truly understand who you're trying to sell to? And that's a tougher question than you think. You're like, oh, of course I do. Well, let's articulate it. Okay, is it millennials that live in urban areas that have X amount of disposable income, or over 100,000, or between 50 and 100? You need to really get that nailed. Who are you selling to? The second one is, what's your value proposition? And you can't just say, I'm an engineer, so I made this mistake in spades. I used to talk about what I was working on. It's so cool, the feeds and speeds, the MIPS, and I did a reduced instruction set computer. And I thought anybody who didn't get it must be not getting, not that bright. But that's completely wrong. Shame on me. What you need to do is always turn in the form of what's important to the customer. What are they looking for? They're usually looking to save money, reduce cost, more security, improve their wellness, improve their appearance. As a matter of fact, there's a great article in Harvard Business Review called "The 30 Things That Customers Really Value." So I strongly urge you to research that. It was published by Bain and Company. If you haven't heard of Bain, a strategy company up in Boston, where I'm from, they actually bought you the Net Promoter Score. So they took 4 years of studying. They came up with only 30. Doesn't matter whether I'm buying a jet aircraft or a hammer. It's there. And review those. And then what I do in my class, I make people articulate the benefits of their particular product, of their startup, in terms of that language. Which ones do you hit? Then after that, you'll have to determine, how do you reach buyers? There's many ways, but you want to make sure you figure out a way to get there. It's not just, hey, let me plaster social media and spend a lot of money at Facebook or Google. I think that's relatively highly inefficient. There's only one company who did it well out of 400 that went through my course. That was a gaming company. They had to attract young people to do betting on gaming, but they had nailed it. But mostly it's more directs, or it's more pointed. Then after you figure out how to reach them, the key thing is, what story do you tell? What story? Because we are human beings, we communicate in stories. So if I was talking to you about my new tire, I say I have a new tire, has great tread, vulcanized rubber, lasts a long time, pretty grippy, stuff like that. You guys want to buy my tire? That doesn't sound that interesting. But if I said to you, imagine your children landing at an airport near you. You left your car for them to drive, and they're going to come visit you in your vacation home up in the mountains or something else. And then a big rainstorm came up. Let's say it's California, and it was dry, so the rain was pushing off the dirt, turned it into a kind of a muddy slurry coming across the road, making it very slippery. But my tires are so good, they cut through that. They grip the road through anything, and they keep your children safe as they're traveling to come see you for your birthday celebration that weekend. Are you interested in my tires? When I tell the story, it's much more compelling. So you always have to tell the story. Commercials are a little story. And then once you tell the story, you have to figure out how to activate the buyers. It might be presenting your story at a conference. It might be, I'll give you a crazy one, and then I'm going to move on so I don't run out of time. At IBM, after we got bought as a startup into IBM, IBM decked out an 18-wheel truck, and we wanted to get to the top executives of Fortune 500 companies efficiently. So they decked it out in mahogany, beautiful stuff. We hired a 3-star Michelin chef, and we just advertised to the company in front of headquarters, hey, we're going to pull up in our 18-wheeler. You can come down and see our new applications and new technology. And in the meantime, get a quick lunch from a 3-star Michelin chef. And you know how many people came out of the building to see that? Every single one, because every single one has to eat, or pretty close to every single one. It would, so that's called activation. How do I start to interact with you? So there's a whole course. Those are the 6 key components. And maybe sometime we can take it up in another seminar, but that's the go-to-market strategy. That's how you need to do it. And you have to do a lot of hard work and homework to make sure you nail it as you come out. Any other questions quickly? And I'll cover off 2 more topics in the time I have left.
There's a question related to the same topic here, which is how is it compared to B2B? What about B2B perspective?
From the sales, 30 things that. So I'll tell you, I worked in startups and sold. I was in IBM as a vice president, in charge of sales for a while. I went over and did another startup. Then when I went to Cisco, I was in charge of global consulting. So I've seen big Fortune global 200 clients. And it's funny because our initial reaction is, oh, they're monolithic giants and they must be so analytical about making a decision. But I'll tell you, what's a big company? It's simply a collection of people. What's a small company? A collection of a less number of people. They're still people. And the same things that make you want to buy a car, maybe it's the safety components, it's the speed, the reliability, the quality, the way it makes you look. So that's attractiveness. All those things are in the 30 things that customer value. The same for big companies. What are they looking to do? Save money, make money, improve safety for their people. So it's almost exactly the same. I use the same for both. Most of the companies that do come through my course, they're probably 2/3 enterprise B2B, 1/3 direct to consumer. Still applies because we're talking in terms of what's important to the recipient, which is something that we need to work on as human beings for effective communication, but certainly in effective sales. Whether I'm selling, because I'm still selling to a person in a company. It's just a person. So that's a quick answer. We can kind of go through more of that later if you want. Any other questions? All right, let me keep marching on. This is a little box down here on the bottom, finishing off the sales call. So it first says, the sales call, of course, will take place over many calls. So it's called the sales call as a metaphor, but it's really, a series of things that make up the complete sales call. If you're unable to close the deal, which is highly likely, probably 9 out of 10 times, you need to make sure you leave the meeting understanding additional actions that need to be taken by both sides. So that's why the third point here is make sure both parties have actions. Don't leave, even with VPs and executives, and say, okay, I'll go do this and I'll get back to you. We always want to leave mutual actions. So look, I'm going to go back and get the details on the technical specs on how we're going to be able to integrate across the other companies that your company has purchased. And then if you could bring forward somebody who truly understands all of that technology, So we have a highly protected meeting that would make that next meeting very productive. Whatever it is, I don't just want to be in a subordinate position. I want to try to make it equal and have both parties, even if it's a perfunctory action from the other part. Okay, you'll summarize this and send us a memo of what we discussed and the next things we need to talk about. Just get everybody acting or involved. And the last one is don't leave the meeting without scheduling the next meeting. How many times? This is what causes me to go to berserk. You know, the salespeople come back. Oh, we had a great meeting. It was awesome. This guy is so interested. We're going to do this. Oh, when's the next meeting? Oh, we're going to have to schedule that. What a mistake. You know how hard it is to schedule meetings? Of course, that's super hard for busy people. If you're talking to the right people, it's really hard. If you're not talking to the right people, scheduling meetings is easy. So if the meeting is easy to schedule, I know you're talking to the wrong person by definition. But don't leave. Just say, hey, look, I'm clear next Thursday and Friday. Is that good with your schedule? Or in 2 weeks? What works for you? And then mark it down before you leave. And now we have an actions to come back together. So a couple of quick advice on that. All right. So that's that, the sales funnel. So unless there's any other questions on that, I'll go into the sales funnel. So I don't see anything on chat. So the first question I ask is, if you're a founder of a startup or in running a team, why do I need a sales funnel? What's the one word that describes the purpose of the sales funnel? Is it for decoration? Is it to make it look good? Is it just to put a lot of data? Why, if I'm the CEO of a company, do I need a sales funnel? Or the head of sales for, I don't know, 500-person sales team. One word. Execution, security. Well, those 2 words. Tracking, yeah. So the word I'm looking for is efficiency. Because if I don't have immediate visibility as an executive, I can't make determinations on who's doing a good job, bad job, and whether we should bring more resources to close the sale or jettison or postpone. And like I said, most sales, even in the illustrious IBM and Cisco, people get ingrained. They become friends with these people and they keep talking. And unfortunately, you know, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, you need to make sure things are moving through the funnel. So then the funnel in my world, or in my experience over 30 plus years, is 7 key components. And anybody want to guess on the first one, just like we did on the sales call? What's the first step in the sales funnel? No guesses. Awareness. Yeah, that's good. I like awareness. That's prospects. So really, and this is where, you know, you have already marketing and sales always talked about together. But to me, my marketing teams have always been about one thing. I want you to get the awareness, like you said, very good, or the marketing messages out to all the potential customers that we could have. And I want qualified or good prospects identified starting to enter into the sales funnel. And if you can't do that, marketing department, then you failed. I don't care about how pretty your pictures are. I don't care how amazing it gets an award. There's only one thing I'm interested in. I need prospects because I spent money on a sales team. So marketing, that's their job. To me, you do it well, it's incredibly valuable. It's critical actually for success, but let's not get, you know, sidetracked. You have to get the message. And then the other expression I used to use when I went to Asia and I opened up a PwC practice there from 0. And then in 3 years, we had over 50 million. But I told the marketing team, I said, if there are people after 30 days, if there are, you know, Fortune 500 companies around Asia who are not aware of what we have to offer, it's a crime. Because I can guarantee you there's no sales that we can get unless someone's aware that we exist. So that's the purpose of the first step of that sales funnel, drive some good prospects, at least make them aware. And then let's start to work on it. So the second thing is what? What's the next component? It's related to the sales call because I put the sales call up here. So the number 2 is a qualified lead. And I've already talked about it. And as you can see, this isn't an exact match, but on these next couple of steps of the sales funnel, this is where that sales call is absolutely critical. I need to qualify you. And there's 4 components in an exact qualification. One is Does the customer truly have a need? Secondly, do they have the budget? Thirdly, are they operating in the time frame? So that's what I told you before in the sales call. And then fourthly, this is the fourth dimension. Are they a good fit with my product, really? I know I hope against hope, that they are, but you have to make a tough call, because what's really bad is if I go through all the whole sales funnel and then I come in number 2 when the final decision is made. That it causes my head to explode. That means I spent all these time and resources. And again, sales, business, startups, it's a semaphore. You either win or you lose. There's no second or third place. So I have to win. So let's make the call up front. Am I truly a really good fit? I don't want to make believe and try to jerry rig it in. And if I'm not a good fit, let's move over to somebody who is a good fit. It's a hard decision to make, but that's a critical one for efficiency and effectiveness. Otherwise, my salespeople and marketing people can be super busy and I don't get any sales. I keep coming in number 2. Number 2 sucks. Number 2 is worse than coming in number 10 because I came so close. So we want to set ourselves up for winning, and we have to make sure we have a right product fit. What's the third thing? Solution. So I want to talk to you about my solution because I determined all those criteria are really cool, like we did in the sales call. And I want to make sure that I understand all the needs. That was part of the sales call, and that I can deliver the solution that you're looking for. That's the other honesty you have to make. That's the same thing with fit. I don't want to BS anybody here. It doesn't bode well for anybody. You want to be always upfront and honest. If it's not a good fit, I can't deliver what you need. I should tell you, say, I'm sorry, I'm just not the right fit. No, that will pay you dividends in the world of karma later, but you don't want to fake it here. It's also expensive. You're going to spend a lot of effort doing that for no end. All right, so that's 3. What's the next thing we do? So we're talking, looks like everything's working out. I got the needs, I presented the solution. We have some kind of qualification around it. What's the next thing I need to do? Very important in the sales funnel. Critical. No guess. Proposal. And what does the proposal really mean? The proposal isn't throwing together a 100-page PowerPoint deck. That is absolutely insanity. A proposal means let's write it down, because as human beings, we make a lot of default assumptions. And over time, we forget the negative and we only assume the positive. So I want to start writing it down, and then people pay more attention when you write it down. So we always did, even in the world of Fortune 500s, a letter proposal. We don't make it overly complicated. We don't throw a load of slides. It's Word, because it's easy to use one before and create another one. All I want to do is create a crisp document with simple language saying, we've agreed, this is what's in scope, this is what's out of scope, this is the fees, this is how we're going to implement, this is your job, this is my job. Make it simple, stupid, right? KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And then if there's something that comes up that it doesn't fit, good, I would like to know about it now. No, I thought you guys were going to do that. Oh, let's talk about that. We can, that's an extra fee, or okay, we will. But anyway, we get it worked out in a simple letter proposal, so we have an agreement. And without getting it in writing, we can have an absolute miss from human beings' standpoint. All right, so we get a proposal. They like the letter, and they say, yeah, we're aligned, and we have it in writing. Very important to have it in writing, because we're going to refer to it later, because human beings forget. Oh, I thought you were going to do that. No. Remember, we talked about it. You said you guys were going to take over that component. Oh, I see. So that letter proposal is critical. What's next? Agreement, because I already said we accept the proposal. We now have agreement. And then after agreement, what do we need to do? The mistake is people rush in. Oh, they agreed. Let's get started. And sometimes you get requests from companies. Oh, we agree. Can you guys just get started? Can you guys start to implement this tomorrow? We're going to work out the details, the paperwork later. That's a big mistake. So we want to get the contract done. Now, the contract not only has the proposal stuff, usually you just attach it to it or refer out to it, but then it has the terms and conditions like indemnities and terms of payments and stuff like that. So the contract terms are important. They're different than the proposal. Proposal is about solution meeting needs. We want to make sure and who's doing what. The contracts are a lot of T's and C's, but I need to get that done. Don't start the work beforehand because it may never come. And then what's after the contract? We're negotiating the contract. Again, they could say, we're negotiating the contract. It's gonna get done today or tomorrow. Can you guys start? No, again, no, do not do that. And the last step in the sales funnel is the order. Once you receive a signed contract and a purchase order, because they go together, at least in the United States or the Western side, you know, a contract is not an agreement to purchase, by the way. Just as we reached agreement on the terms and conditions. It's once it goes through procurement and I get a purchase order, that is a commitment of that company to buy something for you. So I would always advise wait on both. Because there's plenty of cases where a contract's been signed, no purchase order. It says, no, well, we never executed it to agree to purchase anything. That contract was in place, so BUs could select if they wanted to, whether to purchase your solution, but nobody issued you a PO, so we're under no obligation to pay you. So that's really the sales funnel. I put a little bit more detail down here to explain more about qualification and solution, making sure you're pursuing it. Because the further you go through the funnel here and you run into a loss, that's so much human effort that I don't want to spend. All right, any questions on that before we jump ahead? Make sense? And then the next thing I want to do, so how much time do I have left? 7 minutes. So this is kind of cool. This is the 13 biggest mistakes I've seen over the years that startups make. Really salespeople, but especially startups. So the number one, people get enamored. Oh, I made contact with Samsung. I'm talking to somebody in Samsung. Okay. Who is it? All right. And a lot of people stop there. Oh, but that's the person I'm going to develop a relationship. Big, huge mistake. As I already talked about, you got to get to the decision makers. And also, I don't want Joe Jr. person, all due respect, making the business case as to why they should buy my product. I want to make the sales case personally. So either it's B2C, so I want to do it through a, maybe a webinar or something efficient, or it's certainly in the enterprise. Don't rely on just one person. Find out those decision makers and then move to them and make your case personally, directly, one-on-one. And obviously start with the economic buyer first, and then you'll be pushed to the technical buyer. Sometimes you have to go through the technical buyer, but that's something I try to avoid like the plague. Because if the economic buyer says, this looks good, they're going to tell the technical buyer, hey, look, can you guys tell us if this thing is working as advertised? Can you come back to us next week? They're going to time box them because they just need a thumbs up or thumbs down. They don't need illustrious technical evaluation. And of course, what do technical people do to prove how valuable they are to the organization? Hey, can you evaluate this? How much time do I have? As much as you want. What am I going to do? If I come back and say, oh, it works perfectly, do I look that smart? No, I have to find the 54 or 75 reasons why there's a deficiency in the product you're looking at. Because I'm so smart, I found all these holes. So that's the problem with starting with the technical buyer as well. If they're time boxed, they're going to say, okay, there's 75 holes, that's fine. But will it work, and help the company? That's all I need to know. Well, yeah, it will. Okay, there you go. That's all I need. I don't need to really understand the 75 things they could have done better, because they'll get there eventually. Technology continuously improves. Okay, the number 2 reason they do not qualify the customer, they get enamored with just getting a meeting with somebody from a big illustrious company. Oh, I'm talking to Walt Disney World. Oh my God, that's so great. So we want to make sure we qualify so we can move the product through. Sell too low in the organization, just a mild influence versus an economic buyer. By definition, if the meeting was easy to get, you're talking to the wrong person. I mean, it's helpful to start, but I need to get up. So I need to make sure I get to the right people. The 4th one is start the sales process with the technical buyer. So I've already hit that one many times in different ways. 5th, ignore the CXO level. A lot of people get scared. Ooh, that's CXO. You should definitely be communicating there, because the very worst thing that happens is they get referred down. So let's say you send something to the CXO in a very small, pithy, not a long email, but says, look, we have a way, I think we can save you about 20 to 30% in your sales closing rate with some of the digital advertising you're doing. And here's a short video that explains it. This is a true story, true company I work with. And what did the CEO do? Send it down to the chief marketing officer. That's good, Because if I'm the chief marketing officer at a Fortune 500 and I get something from my CEO, I'm going to be pretty sure to do it, right? As opposed to starting there, they have no pressure. So it's always good to hit influencers in a very positive way, including the very top management, because the worst that can happen is they just forward the email down. Hey, John, hey, Sally, somebody, can you take care of this? Or take a look at that. Ooh, okay, well, I got it from my boss, so I definitely will. The 6, participate in a POC that has no success criteria. Sometimes you have to go through a proof of concept, especially as a young company. But those people who get stuck, I always ask them, the startup, what's your definition of success? What is it that you had to prove with your proof of concept that caused them to say, wow, this is great, we're going to buy? So you need to have that right up front. Otherwise, and if you can't agree to it, you shouldn't do the proof of concept. Number 7, the startup CEO sells too low. I always advocate, have your person selling at whatever level, and then keep the CEO, even if you're a 5-person company, pairing off with somebody up, because once you start working with this level, it's hard to go around them to go up. So you keep somebody higher in your company that can go and make the call. Competition may get crept in, so you want to call, and let's say you want to call the COO. Leave the CEO open to do that and say, hey, I just want to follow up. My guy is working with your guy, the vice president, on this. Just want to check to make sure you have everything you need to make a really great evaluation, or a good evaluation of what we can do. Is there anything you're missing, or is there anything that I can provide you? It's a very courteous follow-up. And if there is anything, 9 times out of 10, they'll say, well, we've heard that some other competitors can do this. Is that something that you can do? And they may not have heard it lower. So, oh, yeah, as a matter of fact, I can. Why don't we structure a short 15-minute call? I'll have my chief of engineering talk to you and your chief of engineering, and we can talk through that, or whatever it is. You want to overcome that objection. Number 8, sell product for too low a price. I hear this all the time from startups. Oh my God, we're going to come in, we're going to sell it. And if you start too low, it's really hard to say, well, I told you it's only $1,000 a year for my SaaS product, but it's really $5,000. Okay, how is that going to go over? That's like a non-starter. But if you come in and says, well, my SaaS product is $35,000 a year, and they go, oh my God, that's like twice as much as anybody else. Well, let's work it out. What can we do to drive down the price, but yet get something value back? And typically for startups, I like references. If they do a video reference, if the product works well, and then you can show that on your website or circulate that, that's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars when you get a good one. So that's what a lot of startups do. Or you can just start negotiating the price based on volume. If you guarantee me this volume, I can lower my cost another 30, 40%. But don't start too low. Number 9, you don't build an effective quantification reason why I should buy your product. So I need to know from a money standpoint, how much are you going to save me? Just like the example I started off with. If you say it's really great, it's going to improve productivity, boring. If you say, look, I'm looking at probably 1.5 million a year based on the information you gave me, that's how you accelerate sales or make it meaningful, especially when you go into negotiations and they ask you to cut your price some more because you go to a procurement. Oh, you need to cut it another 35%. Well, we're already saving you 1.5 million. I'm charging you only 10% of that. So that's a 10 times payback period. Number 10, ignore a negative influencer and a coveted client. You don't want to ignore it. You want to meet with them and try to overcome whatever objection they had. Number 11, send sales materials instead of having a meeting. People say, oh, I'm really interested. Just send me some brochures. You really want to resist that. You want to come back with, hey, can I just talk you through, take 15 minutes, and then send you materials? Because the materials by themselves don't fully explain what we have to offer and how we do it. But I will, if you give me 15 minutes with you and your team, I'll hit the high points and answer any questions to make sure you can put it in proper context. Is that fair? So that's what I strongly urge. 12, don't ask for the order at the end. You already showed them you can save money. And you sit there and wait. I really hope they tell me they want to buy it from me. Ask for the order. Say, look, I brought the contract. I don't want you to lose, $1,500 a day like we just figured out. If you sign this, we're ready to start right away. This is simple terms and conditions, or it's a preliminary engagement, and then we'll work out the other stuff later, but at least I'll get paid for what I start with. So that's okay to do as long as you have some kind of written agreement. And my best guys are ready to start Monday or tomorrow. I used to do that all the time. Let's just get started. And then number 13, negotiate before it's time to negotiate. This leads me into my negotiation class. But what you don't want to do when you're selling is start to negotiate price and other terms and conditions, because you're going to be pushed over to somebody in procurement or someone who's going to want to take a bigger pound of flesh from you. So I don't want to be putting it up front. It says, look, the price will be competitive if we can just get through the needs and understand the benefits. You know, that's really what I want to concentrate on now to make sure we have a good fit and it's a win-win for both of us. And then, you know, whoever's responsible for the negotiation, let's save that to then. But I assure you, we will be very competitive because I want your business, but I don't want to negotiate before it's time to negotiate with your negotiators. So that's it. 13 tips. Hopefully that's helpful. Gave you some simple stuff, but they can be very powerful at helping you drive sales, get sales, be efficient, and close the sale as you reach out with your great product that you work so hard at inventing as a startup founder. So with that, thank you. And then I'll take any questions if you have time. I know I went over 2 minutes. So, but whatever the team, the 500 team wants to do, I'm happy to accommodate.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard, so much. We can take a couple of questions if you don't mind for a few minutes. If anyone has any questions or to answer at least the one we have. Any current questions on the same topic? Other than that, we can just answer Mahmoud's question on when it comes to start selling the product. Some startups start with a freemium, then payable, then at a large stage subscription. What's your thought?
Yeah, is that in the chat? And
the Q&A. You can see the Q&A.
The Q&A, yes.
Yeah. I'll just send it to you here.
I don't have it in my chat. I only have 2 questions.
I sent it to you over the chat.
Okay, and then I have another question. This is relevant. How to deal with gatekeepers. That's what I was trying to address. So first, when you enter the company, you have a little bit of a honeymoon period to move through it kind of efficiently. No one's going to block you. But if I start working with a manager level person, they will start to feel like they own you. And then when I try to go around them, they're going to say, what are you doing? I'm really working hard for you. So you want to actually quickly get to the decision makers, establish a quick rapport or connection, and then no one's going to block you. You say, well, no, I talked to John last month or last week. You know, I'm working with you. So anyway, that's a quick answer. And then where was the question you asked?
I sent it to you over the chat, Richard.
Oh, when it comes to start selling the product, some startups start with freemium, then payable, then at a later stage subscription. What's your thoughts on this? So my thoughts on this is when you start off, there should be components that are always free. And that's always the magnet for people to come in and try you. But there's another set of components, more robust, that induce you to pay for it. So for example, even Zoom will give you free for a limited number of people and up to 40 minutes. Then you get cut off, right? So that's free, and it's always going to be free. That's how they get you to check it out. It says, yeah, the video is pretty good. I like this. I can share my slides. But boy, I don't like getting cut off after 40 minutes because, you know, most of my conversations need to go at least an hour or something. So that's how they get you. So it's a good way to try it. It's fair, I think. It's try before you buy, but it's always free, and then make sure it's compelling to get freemium. What's the mistake I've seen is that they give too much away for free, and some companies have the price. It's only attractive to such a small segment of their target customer base that they don't drive the money. So there's a trick there to balance it, because I want to give you an ability, freemium, try before you buy, but I want to quickly, get you to move into the paid side. And so when you do pay for it, it becomes a subscription, right? That's generally what I want. Hopefully that answered the question.
Mayar? Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. Answered well. Good. I appreciate that. Any other questions? The chat is what seems to work for me to see.
Okay. The Q&A from Yasmin, fundraising is just like sales. What is the key point of 5-minute pitch in terms of selling your idea to the fundraiser?
Okay. Yeah, it is sales, but it's not when I sell to a consumer my product, the value proposition is, what are you doing on those 30 things? Now, I'm selling to investors, but what am I selling? So we have a very prescriptive way. Rob Nevert, if you've heard of him from 500, good friend of mine, does a marvelous job of teaching it. But what they're looking for is what? Number one, what do you do in simple language? And number two, are you legit? So if you look at how we break down how we pitch, it's the title slide that has a 7-word or less explanation of what you do. Because even if you can't come up to 7 words, then I would submit to you that you don't understand what you do well enough either, or you don't understand what you do well enough. But the very next slide is traction. And some people say, well, that doesn't make sense. Traction, I should talk about the problem and then the solution. But you know what? People can talk about the problem ad nauseum and the solution ad nauseum. What's the first thing I'm thinking about if I'm an investor? Well, my purpose as an investor is I want to make money, usually 30x in 5 to 7 years. That's my metric. So if you show me traction, that's legitimacy. Oh, we're growing 30% month on month revenue for the last 7 months. Legit. Now I'm paying attention to everything else you say. Or, whatever, so I need to show the traction. If you're inventing something new, show me the traction in terms of how close you are to like the stuff I do at the medical school here, FDA approval or advances in the clinical trials. Oh, that's legit. Then come back, okay, talk a little bit more about the problem, a little bit more about the solution, but I really need it in about 2 minutes. And once again, it's just to give me enough confidence that you know what you're doing, and to talk in a pithy way is absolutely required. And it's like Mark Twain said, I would have sent you a shorter letter, but I didn't have enough time. And it's hard because it's hard work to make a very short but very powerful statement or letter. So you work on it, but you need to do that for human communication. So that's what you're selling, because I'm selling a legitimate investment that you can see your way to making a lot of money on if you invest and help me grow my company, because your money's rocket fuel. That's it. And then they're going to look for the team, because I can, and that's probably the most important element, or most important. I can pivot a product. Hewlett Packard started off with 4 failures initially, Hewlett and Packard. But they were such great friends, such great engineers. They got it, then they got it, then they got it, and they kept moving. So I can pivot a product, but I'm very difficult to pivot a team. So I really look at that team. Are they smart? Do they trust each other? Do they play well with each other or synergize? Do they have the right skills? That's first and foremost. So if you're looking at a pitch deck selling, show me what you're doing. Show me that it's legit, because it's having traction in the marketplace in a meaningful way. Revenue is really the acid test. And thirdly, but it's no less important, is show me the team. How good are you guys or gals? Because another top 10 reason why startups fail is there's a schism of the partners, of the founders, and then the team breaks apart. I just saw that happen a month ago with another high quality startup that had great runway, but they just didn't get along. So there's a great idea, great startup, fell apart. So hopefully that answers it. Those are the key elements. So it's selling to their needs. Investors make money, customers, I improve my life in some way. Show me how. Hopefully that was okay. What's the next question?
Okay, from Mayar. Thank you so much, Richard. She's saying, I will get recruiting. I will tell them, her question was about finding a team. She will tell them about the percent, but lack of commitment, also another question. How safe can you be when you pitch to people to recruit your big idea? I think retention she's talking about for teams.
Bringing the team in or retaining the team?
Retaining the team.
I mean, that's going to be, if it's retaining the team, it's going to be about how clear your vision is and how steady you are as a leader. There's some great work. My experience is, and there's a guy, Sidney Finkelstein, who writes a lot about this up at Dartmouth. And so I have another class on leadership. But it comes down to a couple of core elements. One, do you have a vision that people can really believe in? 2, are you consistent? And 3, are you steady? Because nobody wants someone who's bipolar, right? Today I'm excited, tomorrow I'm disappointed. Today I'm confident, tomorrow I'm like fearful. That blows apart a team. I want steady, beautiful vision, excitement. We are positive, active voice. We are going to make it. Look at John F. Kennedy's moon speech in 1963 at the University of Texas saying, we are going to go to the moon. We're going to land people safely on the moon and return them safely to Earth before the decade is out. We had none of that technology. So that's the core element of leadership, to guide a team, to have them high performing, if that's the question. And if you deviate from some of those things, and then hiring great people because you need to delegate. Nobody likes a micromanager. That means you don't trust me. If you're coming into my stuff, you don't trust me. Why did you hire me? So hopefully that answered a couple of quick questions, if that was the question that we understood.
Nice.
Ask it again or ask something else if there's something I
think
missed.
we have another question from Hamid, from Ajar. They just recently start selling subscription plan. Can you give us some pinpoints and also elaborate on point 8 and 13 on the biggest mistakes?
Oh, elaborate on 8 and 13.
Yes, for sell products for too low price.
Well, there's a great piece of work by this guy named Daniel Ackerman at Princeton University. He won the Nobel Prize in economics and psychology because he analyzed how people make decisions. And in particular, he was really wondering why we make such stupid decisions and we lead to stock market crashes, like the 2008 crash. And in that, he talks a lot about these things. He wrote a book called Thinking Fast and Slow. It's about the fast thinking mind, slow thinking mind. Another topic I can go on about a couple hours about. But pinpointing to that particular thing is we have anchor prices. So when I walk into the store and I'm going to buy my wife something really nice at Tiffany's, I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe it's $1,000, $2,000, and I see this beautiful tennis bracelet for $12,000. It's shocking, but because it shocks me, it sensitizes me to it, and then I'll start to get used to it. If they said it was 6,000, I say, oh my God, 6,000. But after a while, I get used to it. So what he talks about there is an anchor price. And then once we hear it in selling cars, people do that all the time. It's, $25,000. And then you go through that whole negotiation, right? And then you think you got a great deal, but they start off with a high number. When you start low, you can never go up. That's impossible. So you always want to start with a high now, and maybe that's the value. If you said that someone's making $1.5 million in savings a year and you're going to charge them $1 million a year, well, your product is worth it, right? So that's value pricing. But don't undercut it. Do something that's reasonable. I'm not saying sell it for $1 million because you can, but don't start too low. And that's the thing. So you see it. It's called anchor price. It's related to psychology. Once we get that number fixated in our head, and then we start working against it, then we think we got a good deal. And now I'll just share one more thing. When I entered into IBM after I was absorbed into there, I was surprised that every single thing we do is there's a list price and there's a negotiation, and the average discount was about 33.2% for Fortune 500. So I was like, why don't we just discount it down and just have a fixed price? The answer is that human beings don't like that. We want to talk about it. We want to negotiate it. So having that higher price negotiating down and you go through a process. This is in my negotiation class. It's always a process, but then they feel good that, wow, I got a good deal. I saved us money. So that's what that first item is about. And then you said number 13, negotiate before it's time to negotiate. Oftentimes, good salespeople become good friends with the people they're dealing with, and that's natural. It's good. I did when I was asked to run sales at one point in my career. And but what happens is I'm talking to Bob, becoming my good friend. Maybe we start having barbecues as families together on the weekends. And he says, yeah, how much can you, the price for your product? And I'm dealing with a big company. Let's say it's Mobil Oil, true story. And I'm like, oh, Bob, we can give you a good deal. Don't worry about that. He goes, well, how much? My mistake would be to say, well, look, our list price is $50,000 a month. Oh my God, that's so much. Well, don't worry. If you're normal, we can negotiate, probably get it down to $20,000 a month. Now, what happens is I'm talking to Bob. I can't tell him to keep secrets from his own organization. And Bob's going to tell procurement, yeah, it's only 20,000. I'm not under, not to do anything to you, but they'll say, yeah, it's only 20,000. Let's get this done. I want to get that solution in. What is procurement here? Oh, 20,000. That's my starting point. And if I'm procurement and I can't get anything more out of you, why does the organization need to pay me money as procurement? Because if I said, okay, nothing to negotiate, I've just told my bosses that I add no value. So my proper answer to Bob, my friend, is look, don't worry, our list price is here. I know you have a negotiating team, so don't worry, I'm gonna make sure I get it really competitive. But for you, if we can really make sure we understand the problem and the solution and the quantification of the benefits, that's gonna help me, and then we'll get this done. See, the error is I negotiate before it's time to negotiate for good reasons, maybe innocent reasons, but and I've done this, I made this mistake. It cost me a lot of problems. When I did do it, I never did it again, but the procurement, well, we understand this is a low price. We're going to start here. I said, no, that's always best and final. Well, it can't be best and final because you haven't talked to us initially. I don't know who you're talking to, but we're procurement. We need to have another 35% discount. Like, oh my God, what mistake have I made? So that's the issue I'm talking about. Don't negotiate until it's time to negotiate. All right, any other question? Hopefully that answered the question.
Another question is a startup from Bainish. As a startup, our product is new and customer less to understand it. Thought to get recommended by market, your views. Tough to get recommended by market. So what's your
Oh, yes. So there's a whole process we need to go through, and that's true for a Fortune 500 as well as a startup. If you build it, they will come. That never works, right? You know that expression from that movie. They build a big baseball diamond in the middle of the cornfield. Mel Gibson, they come. That's not what happens. You need to do things. One of them, I'll give you an example. Well, you need somebody that can work with you that has stature that can sell your product. Either I give it free to Michael Jordan if I'm selling sneakers, and all of a sudden I get runway. So it's free to him initially, but everyone will follow. Or another big company would be what I did at IBM. We built something at cost for a USAA insurance, a big brand name. But we gave it to them at cost because we needed their help to make sure we developed it correctly and it was adapted correctly for their environment. In return for that, we said, if it does work as well as we both expect and hope, that you will agree to serve as a reference and entertain executives from other companies who fly in to San Antonio, Texas to go look at it and talk to you, CEO, CFO, COO. Do we have an agreement? So that's one of the things we set up initially because it's a new product. When you have a new product, people say, I haven't heard of this. I don't know if this works. Is it any good? Well, as a matter of fact, it's down at USA. You can fly down. You can talk to the CEO, CFO, and COO. Matter of fact, we have this open every 15th of every month. And we'll have a nice lunch with them and everything. You meet some other big customers who are looking at it. Oh, when we did that, it sold like hotcakes. There was no more sales process. For a startup, you have to do something similar at giving it to some company, usually a brand name, at cost. You prove it out, but in part of your agreement, you said, if you do this. So I had a company in South America that did this. They were doing energy saving with some really cool technology. And they were putting a lot of pressure on them to agree to buy it after they tried it out. And they came to me and said, oh my God, he wants so much discount. It's almost at cost. I said, well, ask for something in return. How about a video testimonial of less than 2 minutes with him as the plant manager saying how well it worked and how much it saved your plant and the other plants was over 28% in energy consumption. And they agreed. They still got the discount because they wouldn't. So that's something in kind, but that is so valuable to you to have a video testimonial of somebody who's known at a well-known company. They get on and says, I used this product, we implemented it. We thought maybe we'll get 10 or 12% benefit. We actually got 28% savings on our energy consumption. Not only does that save us money, but it makes us a more green company. Oh, that's pretty powerful. What happened? He started getting calls from people he never heard of in other companies. So those are the things you got to think about. I have a lot more ideas, but I know I'm out of time. It's one of my favorite things to brainstorm about. And I have like 16 other examples, mostly for even B2C, with no money. How do you do marketing? And how do you prove it? So something, but hopefully that quick answer was helpful.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions before we close? Because we ran out of time, but thank you so much for taking.
We're way over time, yeah.
Way over time, yeah.
But I don't mind, whatever you guys need. So hopefully it was informative, gave you something to work with, and happy to help. And you can follow up with me as well. Whatever you need.
Just a reminder for those who are in seed stage and would like to apply for 500 Seed Accelerator. Tomorrow is the deadline to get $100,000 investment. So make sure to apply before that. If you have any questions, you can email us. Any question related to the application, we're happy to take it by email. Sorry, we didn't take it here because just for the sake of time, we wanted to focus on the session here. If we have no questions, we can close the session now.
Yeah, just you can hunt me down on LinkedIn, Richard McDonald Jr. If you have something hot you want to follow up with, happy to correspond and address any questions after the session as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Richard.
All right, thanks you guys. Great questions, great audience, by the way. Really, really good. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thanks
All right.
everyone for attending.
All right, bye-bye.
Have a great night, everyone. Bye.